I truly welcome you all to this evening's event, this last session of the night. And this is a very special evening because I will not be speaking. I will be having a conversation, an interview with a person who has become a dear friend to many Palestinians, a dear friend to many Israelis, and a dear friend to many people around the world. A few days ago, when I was preparing the conversation with him, what we will talk about, one thing that I noticed was that his bags were packed behind him as we were on Skype. The problem is, he did not come here. He wasn't able to fly here. He lives in Canada, but because he's a Palestinian, he has to get a special permission to come into the West Bank. Just like people from the West Bank who want to go to Israel, he is from Gaza, living in Canada, and to come here, he had to get a special permission, which was denied. So that was very disappointing that he was not with us, but thanks to technology, he will be with us, hopefully. We've been working on it for 2 hours. He will be with us on Skype. Dr. Ezzeldeen Abu Al-Aish, born and raised in the Jabalia refugee camp in the Gaza Strip, growing up like any refugee child in this area, almost without hope for the future. Luckily, he received, and of course because of his intelligence, he received a scholarship to study medicine in Cairo. There he studied obstetrics and gynecology from the University of London, completed his residency in Beersheba University in Israel, specializing in fetal medicine in Italy and Belgium, and a master's in public health from Harvard. He was the first Palestinian doctor to receive a staff position at an Israeli hospital, where he treated both Palestinians and Israeli patients. He was also a researcher at Sheba Hospital in Tel Aviv. Everything is beautiful until that point, right? He's one of the few people who actually had a permit from Gaza to travel to Israel almost any time he wanted because of his work in the hospital. Then, the tragedy. During the 2008-2009 war on Gaza, known as Cast Lead, he became, because of his excellent Hebrew language, he became the Hebrew voice for all Israel, all Israelis, as he was being interviewed and listened to on radio and television, as journalists were not allowed to enter the Gaza Strip. So he became the reporter for what was happening in Gaza to the Israeli media. On January 16th, 2009, the day before the ceasefire was agreed upon and declared to end that war on Gaza, live on an Israeli news broadcast, this is what happened to his 3 daughters, Bisan, Mayar, and Aya, and to his niece, Noor.
A Palestinian tragedy broadcast live on Israeli television. A call to a doctor in Gaza who's been reporting daily for an Israeli station. His 3 daughters have just been killed. They've killed his family, he says. I think I'm a bit overwhelmed too. He then explains that Dr. Abu AlAish is a Palestinian physician who's worked for years at an Israeli hospital. who was hurt, he asks. He has 8 children, the journalist explains. Maybe we can do something to help. Abu AlAish, where's your house? The cameras then follow the journalist as he tries to use his contacts to send ambulances to help the survivors. Incredibly, he succeeds. The Israeli army allows a Palestinian ambulance to go straight to the Eretz border crossing. From there, the injured are transferred onto Israeli ambulances and taken to Israeli hospitals. Among them, one of the daughters who survived. For the most part of this 22-day war, Israeli journalists were not allowed to report from inside Gaza. And Dr. Abu AlAish, a Hebrew speaker, was one of the rare voices bringing the reality of the Palestinian suffering into the Israeli living rooms.
Everybody in Israel knows that I was talking on television and on the radio, that we are at home, that we are innocent people. Suddenly today, when there was hope for ceasefire, on the last day I was talking to my children, suddenly they bombed us. Is that how you treat a doctor who takes care of Israeli patients? Is that what's done? Is this peace?
The Israeli army said a tank shelled the doctor's house in response to sniper fire coming from the building. Eyewitnesses denied that. Many Israeli viewers called the station to give the doctor their support. Moved by the tragedy of one father, made real by the power of live television. But over 90% of the Israelis still support the war on Gaza, while hundreds of other tragedies remain just a number in a rising Palestinian death toll. Rosa Ibrahimova, Al Jazeera.
Please welcome with me from Toronto, Canada, Dr. Ezzeldeen. Dr. Ezzeldeen, thank you for joining us tonight. I want to start asking you a very personal question. How does it feel for you listening, hearing, and having this story repeated to you after all of this time that it has happened?
Thank you so much. And I would like to thank all of you who are listening in this holy meeting. It's a human one, and I am sure all of you are coming with open heart and mind to listen, to learn, to act, and to make a difference in this world. And this meeting in this holy city, in this holy place, it's time for all of us to come together and to dress one robe, the robe of the humanity. By the end of the day, we are a human, and we need to live and to practice and to defend the human values. What happened? It doesn't remind me, it lives with me. And that's the message I carry the whole of my life. I am accountable to my God and to my daughters, whom I saw when they were killed. For nothing they did, and there was no reason to be killed. They were girls, armed with love, with education, with the plans, with hopes. I taught them to be human and to behave as a human. But as a believer, as a Muslim with deep faith, I fully believe everything from God is for good. What is bad is man-made. And that's the hope in this world. The suffering in this world is man-made. And we need to ask, what can we do to challenge this man-made suffering by not accepting it? To take responsibility instead of blaming. That's why from the first moment, I swore to God, I swore to my daughters whom I believe one day I will meet them, and I want to meet them to tell them that I didn't give up. I didn't forget you. I will never relax. I will never rest. And that your holy souls and noble blood wasn't waste. It made a difference in others' lives. But which means I am using, it's not the bullet which was used to kill them. The bullet is the weapon of the weak. We all, as you are, you have the strongest weapon. It's the wisdom we all blessed to have. It's the kind, courageous, and the strong word and the good deeds. And that's my mission in life, to spread this message and to keep my daughters alive in the minds, in the hearts, and the spirits of the human being, and to prove that this tragedy was for good and will continue to be invested for good.
Thank you, Doctor. Based on that, one of the things you did immediately after this tragedy is you wrote a book, which I think many people have read here. It's called I Shall Not Hate. But for me, part of the process of not hating also deals with the process of forgiveness. So I would like to hear from you, how do you define forgiveness? What is your understanding of forgiveness?
Forgiveness is to move forward, not to keep stranded and, sinking deep with the heavy burden of what happened. Forgiveness, how can you carry responsibility to move forward and to challenge? Because in life we face tragedies, we face hardship, we face ups and downs, but we need to learn how can we challenge ourselves in order to challenge the life challenges. So we need to forgive ourselves, to move forward beyond what happened and to take responsibility about it. That is needed in all of us, because I fully believe God will never change what is in people till they change what is in their hearts, minds, and souls. Start by yourself. We need all to look around, to ask, to learn, and then to do something, not to keep ourselves, as I said, sinking in the anger, but to take responsibility. And we all care about ourselves. We need to be strong enough in order to move forward. That's the forgiveness we needed, not to stay there with the pain, with the anger, with the wound there. The wound and the suffering, how can energize us to move forward?
So it is starting with the forgiveness of the self.
You need to know yourself and to forgive yourself from any harm, or from any pain, or from any wound, because we care. Our bodies are a trust, and we need to be healthy. We need to be strong. We need to make a difference in this world and to enjoy our life and to do good deeds.
Doctor, we are in a conference called Christ at the Checkpoint. And this is a conference that is bringing diverse views on how should Christians engage in peacemaking in the Holy Land, people who follow Jesus Christ. One of the issues that has been discussed, which is an important issue, is we are seeing a rise in violence in the Middle East, and sadly a lot of this violence is pointed towards and targeting Christians in many countries around us. We want to hear your view as a devout Muslim. What is your view on this violence that is happening, particularly when there is this violence towards Christians in the Middle East?
First of all, what are the roles of religions in our life? Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. These religions, they came to save humanity from slavery to freedom, from darkness to light. And God doesn't want anything from us. God wants every good thing for a human being. We need to ask, what are we doing to each other? And this world, it's not only the Middle East, which is endemic with violence. The world is endemic with violence, with hatred, with fear, with poverty and injustice. And these are the result of something. If violence is not happening or someone to be born violent, but we can make someone violent as a result of exposure. We need to ask all of the time. This is one of the most important things that I learned in my life. If I have a patient who is sick with a disease, I ask what made this patient to be sick? What exposures does this patient have? So we need to ask what made violent children to be violent, or someone who is sick to be sick, someone who is injected with this hatred to be hated. It's a result of exposure, hatred, violence, and disease. They are the result. They are product of exposure. We want to focus treating our patient. We focus on treating them and getting rid of the exposure and changing the context in which these children they are living and these people are living, but not to blame them, to say he is violent or she is violent, but what can we do to change and to help them and to treat the disease, not to treat the symptom of the disease. So violence, it's everywhere. It's everywhere in this world, and we need all of us. How can we speak out to protect ourselves from this violence? Because violence as disease, it crosses barriers, and hatred, it crosses barriers. So when we proact and prevent any violence in any part of this world, in the time we see the world is becoming smaller and smaller, and we are in this world, we are living and riding one boat. We are living and riding one boat. We must not allow anyone to do harm to this boat. We need to ask, what world do we want to live in? What world do we want to inherit our children and the future generation? What legacy do we want to pass them? It's our responsibility, and we need to contain and prevent violence, which is spreading all over the world.
So let's go more specific then, also in the context of the situation where we live in the Holy Land. As a doctor, how do you diagnose the situation in Palestine and Israel in the Holy Land? What is, in your opinion, the cause of the violence that we are living through at this time, and we've been living through for many years?
You know, number one, we need to understand Palestinians and Israelis, they are living as neighbors, and they should live as neighbors on the basis of human values, on justice, and both of them, they should be free. And in order to keep that, we need to have an accurate diagnosis. Palestinians are occupied. The Israelis are the occupier. Palestinians are the weak. The Israelis are the strong. Palestinians are the oppressed. The Israelis are the oppressor. But in order to get rid of this oppression and occupation, both should be free in order to live together. They are, for me, like the conjoined twins. So it's a result of the occupation. We need all to be free. And the Israelis, they are not free as long as Palestinians are not. The Israelis should be free from their fears, from what do they think of and what did they experience in their life. And Palestinians, they must enjoy their life and to be free in an independent, a free state, because Palestinians' freedom is from the Israelis' freedom, and Palestinians' freedom, a future is linked to the Israelis' future. It's not dependent. So they should focus on getting rid of this occupation and sit on the table as equal. We can't sit as a patient and the doctor. The patient is responsible, but they are not similar and they are not equal. When we bring them both together in one basket, it's good, but they are not similar and they are not carrying the same responsibility. The doctor carries more responsibility than the patient. And the doctor at this situation, it's the Israeli government and it's the occupation to get rid of the Israeli occupation. And then Palestinians are free and the Israelis are free.
I wanted to ask you, how is your contact and relationship with the Israeli Jewish community today? I remember even reading reports, even the day after the tragedy happened, you were in the hospital, and even some people there were still mocking you when you spoke in front of the press. And I want to hear, what is your view on Israeli Jewish society? How is your relationships? Is there any programs, activities, work that you are doing with them today?
When I practiced medicine in Israel, where I was proud of it, and I felt one of the team, it's my home. I did it because I believed in it. because medicine and health, it has one face. It has one culture and value. It's a human. Medicine and health are the human equalizer and stabilizer. And we need to use health and medicine as an engine for the journey to human peace we are missing in this world. We need to use it. I missed that, but I am keeping in touch with my colleagues, with my friends, whom I missed, and still I am collaborating to do some research with each other. Even when you said about that lady who started to yell at me in that situation when I was wounded and continue to be wounded, but we should learn one thing. We should not generalize. She was one. She does not represent all of the Israeli public. There are good people in this world, and we should avoid judging the majority by the exceptions. She was an exception, and I don't care. Even after what happened, I tried, because I care about her, I tried to meet her, to explain to her, and to listen to her. We need to listen. We need to communicate from goodwill, that because in our life, our enemies are our ignorance, our arrogance, our greed, and our fears. So we need to overcome our ignorance of ourselves and others, and that's the way to listen, to communicate from goodwill.
Beautiful. Thank you, Doctor. I'm going to ask you a question that many of us who are involved in peace work get. It's one of the most common questions. What gives you hope?
For me, hope is life. As long as I'm living, there is hope. And for me, as a medical doctor, I will never lose hope in treating any patient as long as the patient is still alive. You are coming to this great conference because of the hope that you will make a difference and you will do your part. You are hopeful about tomorrow. What gives me hope is my faith, which strengthens me. And that's when you have seen this short video, at that moment when the world was blind, deaf about what is happening. At that time, I directed my face to the one who is awake, who opened his eyes and listening. I directed my face just to God. And that's what I was calling all of the time, oh God, oh Lord, because I fully believe when everything is gone, only God is there to help. So I count on God, and I have my deep faith in making the difference and in hope. Number two, my life experience and my medical profession, that the students we are teaching for the hope to build the future, the researchers who are working in their research lab to find the treatment for diseases that we don't have for them. So hope is there. As long as there are good people who are working hard, believing in hope, then hope can be translated into action. So I say to people, and I encourage you, you are coming there, and I believe in you that you are coming there from good faith. So have faith, have hope, but most important, you need this faith and hope, to be translated into action. Faith and hope without action means nothing. We need to act in order to make a difference. In this world, the patient who goes to the doctor is not only to listen to words. The patient is coming to get a prescription by the end of the day to be cured and to be healed. And Palestinians, they need a treatment to be cured, to be free, and the Israelis to be free. And your support, your help to speak out, to speak is important, because when you speak out, even against my brother, I can criticize my brother because I love my brother and I care about my brother. I care about my children. I criticize them in a positive way, not in a destructive way. So we need to speak out in a constructive way where it brings the freedom to all people, Palestinians and Israelis.
Thank you. I could speak with you for hours. And I know you are the one who's busy, and I think all of us can sit here and listen to you for hours. One of the actions that you were involved in, and this is going to be the question before the last, you started a foundation for your daughters. I would like for you to tell us about the foundation and the work that you are doing now for young girls all over the world.
The Daughters for Life Foundation, which was established, which is the Canadian register of the charity in memory of my daughters, because in my life, I am in debt to my mother, my wife, and my daughters. Without their efforts, I will never achieve what did I achieve. And I fully believe this world can, they say truth and justice, but I can say it can endure with women's role and women's education. And education of girls and women is the most efficient and effective means to make a difference in this world. Women, they don't need to be empowered. Women, they need just to be given the right role and the opportunity to practice and to shape the future of our life. It's time to give the women the right role, and we as men and women, we are working together. We are not competing, we are complementing each other. And that's why I believe in the role of girls and women, and I believe in education of girls and women, and in order to keep my daughters alive and to see their plans and the dreams fulfilled by other girls in this world. It's not the biology, it's the humanity. And to prove to the world that in every bad thing in this world we see it or we experience, there is something good. That this foundation was a positive result of tragedy.
I want to hear the men clap on this one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Doctor, the last question. You have a group of about 600 Christian leaders, people who have committed their life to following Jesus and his teachings, coming from different backgrounds, evangelical, Christian Zionist, Messianic Jews, are in the audience listening to you and listening to you on stream. As a Muslim, what is a message that you give to the Christians who are here in this conference tonight?
Thank you. They are coming from different places, but there is one common thing that brings all of us together, that we are all human, and we need to practice it as a human. This is one thing, and I can say to you, in our life, we face tragedies, and in our life, we have priorities. What are the priorities in life? Is it the past? The past is there to learn from it. And the mistakes that are happening, to learn from them, the mistake is not a mistake if we repeat it. The mistake is to learn from it. So the priority in life is the present and the future. But who is the present and the future? The present and the future are our children. And as I said, we need to ask, what legacy do we want to pass to our children? What do we want to inherit them? A heavy mortgage, an endemic world with violence, hatred, anger, injustice. It's our responsibility. So we need from all of us, each of us can do something. Not to underestimate a word you can spread in this world. When we all come together, to work together as men and women, we can make the world the one we want for us and our future generations. So as I said, have faith, have hope, and most important, to leave this great conference that I wish I would be with you, close to this holy land and this holy place, to take a message that you will make, and you will thank you and wish you a good stay in the Holy Land.
Dr. Ezzeldeen, thank you very much, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.